Hello everyone, I'm Jesus. Today I wanted to make a video on how to put your thermostats on the schedule. Now, the idea behind setting up these thermostats is to set them up on a schedule so that we can have them on while we're at the office and off while we're away from the office. This makes it so that we can conserve power daily and therefore save money on our electric bill. Now, I've already scheduled most of the properties, and then there's some of the properties that were scheduled by their personnel. Um, However, and despite this, I leave it up to each property to decide how they want to set up their thermostats, with the idea that you know uh, you turn it off or put it at a very high setting or a high temperature while you're not there, so that we can conserve a little bit of energy. So it's up to you to decide what works for you, or I guess that sweet spot. Okay. Um, and for those thermostats that I programmed with my team, I created a username and a password for them, and I added them on a spreadsheet. I gave the supervisors access to this spreadsheet so that in case you don't have it, you can always ask your supervisors, and your supervisors can retrieve that information so that you can access the portal. Okay? All right, well, without further ado, let's get started. Now, there's two ways to go about this, but there's the app, which you can download on your phone, and then there's the web version. Now, I'm just going to be focusing on the web version, okay? So we're going to go to the website portal.tricklestar.com, okay? Portal.tricklestar.com. And here, you're going to put in your username and password. And once again, if you don't have it, that's fine. You can get with your supervisor and they can get it for you. Now, if you're one of those properties that I didn't set up, you're going to have to get your username and your password from whoever set it up. And if by any chance they forgot it or don't know it, feel free to reach out to me. Okay, and then we can figure out how to handle that. Now, I'm actually going to start off with a property that I haven't scheduled, and that's going to be Wesley Gardens, because I just recently set theirs up because I was having some issues. But I was able to fix them yesterday, so now we can finally put them on a schedule, so I will use them as an example. So in this case, I already have their information there. But, you type in your username on the left and the password on the right, and then you just choose sign in. Awesome. So before we actually start scheduling things, I want to mention several things that are pretty important, okay? First is, if you have several devices, you have to schedule them separately, or you have to schedule each individual device. So if you have like multiple thermostats in your office, you have to go here to where it says devices, okay? And here you're going to see the other devices, okay? Now, if you have multiple devices and you don't see all your devices here, that's okay. Then that means that your device is up here. That means that you created multiple sites. So, like for example, I think this applies to two properties. I think Amherst and Station, okay? So for Amherst and Station, you would have to go up here and you're going to see two sites. So each site has its respective device so that you can schedule it, appropriately. But you have to schedule each device individually, one at a time, okay? For the other properties that have multiple devices, you're going to see both devices here, okay? So I wanted to mention that because it's pretty important, okay? Something else that I wanted to mention is that if for whatever reason you want to schedule or you don't want to schedule and you want to do your thermostat manually or make a manual change, even while it's on the schedule or even if it's not on the schedule, you can go here to where it says control, okay? And if you press control, you have access here to your thermostat, okay? So, under system, you put it under cool, okay? Because there's really only two options, cool and heat, and it's the summer, so obviously you want it cool. For the fan option, you choose auto so that I can keep, once it finds the proper temperature, it turns off, and then once it heats up a little bit, then it turns back on to cool off the area. So that's the auto feature, as opposed to the on, which just leaves it on at all times. Okay. As far as schedule, and this is very important, for schedule you have to select the option. If you're going to do it manually, you have to do hold permanently, because the other two options are hold until the next schedule or no hold, which is run the current schedule. So hold until the next schedule means that if, like, at 6 o'clock the thing is scheduled to turn off, then it's going to turn off at 6 o'clock. Okay? If you have it at hold permanently, then it's going to run at whatever temperature you have it on. And if you have no hold, that means that it's just going to ignore whatever you put in there, and it's just going to run the schedule, whatever you have in the schedule. So that's pretty important to know, especially if you haven't really configured the schedule, because by default it gives you some very funky settings. Okay, so it's very important to mention. Something else that's very important to mention is that by default this thing starts at Eastern time zone. Okay, so they are 1 hour ahead of us. So if you want it to turn on at 8, it's going to turn on at 7. Okay, which means that if you want it to turn off at 6, it's going to turn off at 5. So in order to put it on the central time zone, what you do is you go here to settings. Now you can access the settings from different places. This is one of them here. Okay, so in this case I probably already put it on the proper time zone. So let's go to settings here then, see if okay, so in this case it's already in central time zone, but I suggest you go to your settings, to your time zone settings, which is right here under settings, and then under info and time zone, and make sure that here's under central time zone, because typically it's in Eastern time zone, so I must have changed it yesterday, but it's typically going to show up in Eastern, so all you got to do is select it and choose Central Time, US and Canada, and then just leave it there. After that, you don't have to push anything, or you don't have to select anything. If for whatever reason it doesn't let you select anything, then take this check off where it says use general settings, and then put it on. Okay, and then after that you don't have to press save or anything. It just automatically locks the setting that you choose. Okay, so once we have the time zones changed, then we can focus on the schedule. So here you have the options, right? Under Wesley Leasing, you have control, which once again controls the temperature manually. And then we have modes, right? And then we have schedule, and those are the main things we're focusing on right now. Now, as you can see, the schedule here, it has some very funky things. Sleep, home, away, home to. Now, we can't really mess with anything yet. You have to change the modes, which is, the sleep, home, away. And ultimately, the idea here is that you want to set each mode to a respective temperature, okay? And the idea is this, that like for the home mode, we're assuming that you're home. So you want the temperature to be kind of cool, right? While you're home. While you're asleep, it's night, or in most cases it's night, so you don't want it that cold. Maybe you want to increase the temperature a little bit, make it a little bit warmer, but comfortable temperature, because you're going to be asleep and it's going to be not that hot outside, so you don't need to fight off against the heat that much. So you can kind of raise the temperature a little bit. While you're away, then you're not really there. You can kind of either turn off the AC or increase the temperature enough so that, the AC is not fighting against the heat outside. So we go into modes and we set the modes at the respective temperatures that we want, and then we go into the schedule and set the mode for however long we want them. So let's focus on the modes first. For home 1, we want a comfortable temperature, right? So we have several options here. We have set temperature heat, set temperature cool, set fan heat, set fan cool, used in, default schedule. So for the heat, I typically just leave it as the same as the cool, because right now it's the summer, so I'm just focused on the cool part. So I just kind of put them together. Later on, when it comes to winter, we'll make some adjustments there. Okay. And furthermore, as long as you have your thermostat on cool, it's going to focus on the set temperature for cool. So heat doesn't really matter right now. The only reason why we mess with heat in the modes is because it kind of affects the ranges of how cool we can make things for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why it was designed this way, but either way, we do what we need to do, and we can get where we want to get by playing with this thing. So anyways, so to me, 72 is a little bit too cold, but it could be kind of ideal for a lot of people and a lot of properties. So I start off with 72, and if you like it colder, then you can change it colder. If you like it warmer, you can change it warmer. So, but I start off at 72. So then for home 2, which is kind of like a second temperature that's comfortable, I leave it at 75, okay? For away, I just simply have the temperature off, okay? And I typically change this to 80 just because. As far as sleep, once again, unless you're planning on spending the night at the leasing office, then it doesn't really matter. You can just leave it at 80. Like I said, we typically aren't going to use sleep. We're mainly going to use home, away, and vacation, and then home too if you like changing temperatures at certain times or whatever. I mean, it's up to you how you want to control this. As far as vacation, it's going to be the same thing, 80 on the heat side and off on the cool side, okay? So let's ignore heat, but focus on the cool. So we have home 1 at 72, home 2 at 75, away at off, sleep at 80, and vacation at off. So what does this mean? That ideally, while we're at the office, we want to put like the home setting. So from let's say 8 to 6 o'clock, we want it to be at the home setting, right? And then before and after, we don't really care. We just want it on the way because you guys aren't going to be there. And when you're on vacation and no one's going to be at the office, then you can either choose away or vacation. Away and vacation do the same thing, okay? So it's very important to set up these modes, okay? So once the modes are set, then we can actually focus on the schedule. Now, if we press on schedule here, we notice that we already kind of have stuff in there, right? And the way that it's kind of set up is it's set up so that if you're at the house, you go in there after work. As you can see, the time frames. It's like the way that you set it up at home is that you want it cool while you're at home, right? But then you go to work from like 8 to 5. So from 8 to 5, it has it on away. So it's kind of like the opposite of how we want it at the leasing office, because the leasing office from 8 to 5 we want it cool, right? So there's two ways to start adjusting the schedule, okay? And so the first way to adjusting it is kind of by removing everything and adding everything again, which I'm going to do for Sunday and Saturday. And then the second way is going to be by editing the information that's there, which I'll do for Monday and Friday, okay? So you use whatever way works better for you. And if you don't really like messing with it, then, feel free to reach out to me or Andresito, and, we will configure it from, wherever we're at, okay? So let's start with the first way of doing it by removing everything and putting everything brand new. Now, by default, we can't really remove everything, but we can remove most stuff, okay? So, like for example, sleep, it doesn't let me click on sleep. It doesn't let me open it, so we can't really mess with it, but that's okay. We're going to mess with it just in a different way. Home, it does let me select it, okay? And we're going to delete it. Okay? And then it just kind of tosses up sleep for the whole time. And then you got another sleep, but it doesn't let you move it, and that's fine. So let's start off with the idea here that, like, when do you want it away on a Sunday, and then when do you want it to start cooling? If you press this little plus sign right here, it says edit schedule, then we can start adding in, our slots, right? So from Sunday, let's say Sunday at 6 o'clock in the morning, we want it to be on the away status. We want it off. We don't really care if it's on, okay? So if we press the add button, then it, gives us a huge away slot, okay? So then when do we want it to start cooling? Well, it's a Sunday. It's a Sunday, so no one's going to be at the leasing office. But the thing is that if we don't turn it on Sunday, what's going to happen is that the leasing office is going to get very hot. And if it gets very hot, then several things may happen. One, there may be some funky odors that may arise from the heat. And two, then on Monday when you guys come in, it's going to be harder for the cool to catch up, right? So we can turn it on Sunday, but we don't have to leave it on all day. We can just leave it on for a couple of hours. So on Sunday, as you can see the day, Sunday, let's say we want to leave it on from 10 to 5 o'clock. So you choose 10, and you don't even have to keep it that cool. You can just choose home 2. Just keep it at a cool 75. Maybe you can even keep it at a 78, whatever you want to configure it to. Press add, and then boom. So right here, as you can see, on Sunday morning, it's going to be off all the way till 10 o'clock, and then o'clock it's going to start cooling. And it's actually going to start cooling all day. We don't want it to start cooling all day, right? We want it to just start cooling until 5 o'clock. So we add in another slot after 5 o'clock. Now the way that these time things work is that it's military time. So 5 o'clock is going to be 17 hours. Okay? So that's 5 o'clock. And we're going to put away, okay? And then we press add. So then from 6 to 10, it's going to be the AC is going to be turned off. From 10 to 5, it's going to be on at 75 degrees. And then from 5 to 11 o'clock, it's going to be off. Now we can remove this now, okay? Because you have to add in a couple of blocks, and then it lets you remove it. So now you can delete that. So then Sunday is set, right? From 6 to 10, the AC's off. Then it starts cooling from 10 to 5, and then it turns off again. And then it stays off all the way till Monday. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to do this one more time on Saturday, and then we'll focus on Monday and Friday. Okay, so for Saturday, same thing. It doesn't let me make any adjustments to the first slot, but the second slot I can remove it. And then the sleep slot, it doesn't let me remove it, but it's going to let me remove it later after I add some stuff to it. So we start off with the same idea. From 6 to, let's say, from my understanding, the leasing office opens up at 10 o'clock. So maybe we can turn on the AC at 9 o'clock so that it has like an hour to catch up on cooling, okay? So we start off with Saturday for the day, okay? From 6 o'clock, we want it to be off because we don't want it to be on at 6 o'clock. We want it to turn on at 9, so we put away at 6 o'clock. So we can kind of get the ball rolling on the day. Okay? So then we make another addition, okay? And what we're going to do is, once again, we're going to put it back on Saturday. So at 9 o'clock, we want it to start cooling, right? So we choose home 1. And then from 6 to 9, it's off. And then at 9 o'clock, it starts cooling, right? Now, you guys are off at 5 o'clock. So then you can you can ask it to turn off at 5 o'clock or at 6 o'clock. I mean, maybe you're planning on staying another hour, and it's not make or break if you add in a couple of more hours, right? So let's say that you want to turn off at 6 o'clock. So then you put this at 18 hours, okay? And then you put the away, okay? So then now we have a schedule on Saturday. The AC is going to be off from 6 to 9. It's going to, turn back on at 9 at 75 degrees because that's what home 1 is set at 72 degrees. And then from 9 to 6, we're cooling, okay? And then after 6 o'clock, we have it on away. And then once we add these slots, then we can remove these other ones, okay? So then we have our schedule set for Sunday and Saturday, so we're good, right? But Monday and Friday, they're way off, right? They're way off, and I want to show you guys a different way of, doing the schedule. On Sunday and Saturday, we focus on just removing everything and adding things, okay? As we remove things and add things, remember, you always want to add things starting from the beginning of the day and working your way to the end of the day, okay? Now, what I'm going to do for Monday and Friday is I'm just going to simply manipulate and edit the stuff that's already there. I'm going to remove a couple of things, but I'm not going to remove everything. But for example, let's start off with home 1, right? From 6 to 8. Let's say you guys come in to work at 9 o'clock, but you wanted to start cooling at 8 o'clock. So this is kind of simple here because, look, all we have to do is go to home, press home 1, and we just change the status here to away, right? And we do this for all of them. Now, take in mind, you can also, play with the times here. And we will. So just, bear that in mind, okay? So we start off with with it being turned off from 6 to 8, okay, which is kind of what we want. But at 8, we want it to turn on, right? So you can have like an hour of catching up on cooling so that by the time you guys get to the office, it's already, a pleasant temperature. So then we change these slots right here to home so that it can start cooling at 8 o'clock. So, we're changing it to home 1, which, once again, home 1 means that we're at a cool 75 degrees Fahrenheit temperature. Oops. Okay. So then, now this leaves it cool from 8 to 4 o'clock, right? So let's scroll down here. Okay, cool. So then from 4 o'clock to, I think it's 10 o'clock, it continues to cool. Now, we don't want it, but we don't really care about anything after maybe 6 o'clock or even 7 o'clock. Let's say you guys may still stay an extra hour or something. So let's say we don't really care after 7 o'clock because after 7 o'clock, we're not at the office. So then ideally, we want to turn it off, right? So we can use this sleep here, and we can change it to away, and we can set it up so that after 7 o'clock, which is 19, okay? Or just, play with it here, then it starts, it turns off. It turns off the AC unit, okay? And then we do the same thing over again here. You know, we change it to 19, which is 7 o'clock. And then we, you know, once again away, and then we change it here to, once again, 7 o'clock. And 7 o'clock again. And away, okay? Oh, something happened on that one, so we'll take a look at it in a second. Alright, looks like I pushed this one in too much, so then we have our schedule now. So then on Sundays from 6 to 10, it's going to be off. From 10 to 5 o'clock, it's going to be on at 75 degrees, and then after that, it's going to be off. So then it's going to be off all night. At 6 o'clock, it's still going to be off all the way till 8 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, it's going to turn, or at 8 o'clock, it's going to turn back on at a cool 72 degrees. It's going to go on like that until 7 o'clock p.m., okay? And then after 7 o'clock, it's going to be off all the way up till 8 o'clock again of the next day. And then like that until Saturday. At Saturday, it turns back on at 9 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock, and it ends at 6 o'clock. Okay, now guys, I encourage you guys to once again find your sweet spot. Now, in some cases, you can just, you know, for Sunday, you can cut back 2-3 hours. You can have it turn on at 12 and just do 12 to 4, right? If you prefer it, you on Monday through Fridays, you can have it turn on at 9 o'clock, right? From 9 to 6 instead of 8 to 7. So if you guys are comfortable with that, then by all means. Now, if it's too hot, like if by the time you come to the office it's too hot, then why don't you have it start cooling off at 7 o'clock? You see what I'm saying? You can always play with it. If on Mondays you come in and it's incredibly hot, then on Sundays, why don't you leave it on longer? There's a lot of ways that you can play with this. But it's a lot better to, even if you just have it off for 6 hours at night, 8 hours at night, or whatever, as opposed to just leaving it on, all the time. So any little thing helps. And, whenever we design something like this, or not that whenever we design it, but whenever we think of an idea like this where we want to give you guys a thermostat and kind of optimize it, it's not so that you guys can do whatever we suggest, right? If whatever we suggest isn't working, then you guys adjust it and play with it and reach that, sweet spot where you guys are comfortable and we're saving up a little bit of money. So I'm not asking you guys to just completely, just have the thermostat on just a couple of hours a day just to save money. No, do it where you're comfortable, and then whenever you're not there, turn it off or put it at a high setting. And then, be comfortable, but, try to save us a little bit of money in the process with this feature. And, if you don't want to play with it, or, I suggest you guys at first try to play with it, see if you can get it where you want it. See how the days are, see how, see what works for you, change your temperatures, play with them, turn it off at certain times, so forth. If you, have any problems, feel free to reach out, and I'll be more than happy to either help you use the schedule, or if you want to send me a schedule, then I can program it to whatever schedule you like, okay? And then just a friendly reminder that, if you have 2 or more thermostats, then you have to do this for each thermostat, okay? All right, awesome. Well, I sincerely hope this has been helpful. And if you guys have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out, and I will be more than happy to assist you, okay? All right, well, y'all have a wonderful day, and y'all take care. And once again, this is Jesus. God bless.